It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
My name is Mike.
And this week, we've got your 2024 Popcorn Bucket Rankings. You've all wanted them. We sat down and figured them out for you, so you don't have to, and we're going to go over those for the first part of the show.
You've been rattling the cages of the podcast, and we hear you.
Yes.
We're going to rank them.
That's right. We got them. We also have, we were off last week, but the Superman trailer flew right into our news feeds right when I said it was going to, Mike. So we're going to be a little late talking about Superman, but I think it's given us some time to reflect on the trailer and, everything James Gunn has said since then, because he won't get off the internet at all.
True.
Spider-Man kicks off 2025 with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I don't know if you saw the new trailer, Mike, for that dropped today.
Oh, I thought you were alluding to like shoes.
No,
like sneakers with kicks.
No, not yet. But, I mean, we've got some Spider-Man news in here, so it'll be the first big thing we have. It'll be the first new content, I guess we could watch this superhero related next year and more.
So we were off last week for the holidays, but also for a very special occasion. Mm-hmm. Now, surprisingly, twice in one calendar year, Chris and I have joined in physical proximity to each other in one single year. We got to see each other during the summer, and we got to see each other last week during the holidays, and you gave me the best gift of all, Chris, which was not the presence of your company. It was you brought over local Cajun Creole restaurants that the wife and I could not get out of her mom's house with the baby to go get it on our own. And you're like, don't worry, we'll bring it. We're on the way. And you even paid for it, too. What a class act.
Well, of course. I mean, you were able. Your wife's mother was so kind to put us up, so it was the least I could do. It was a great day to hang out, and I will say, we don't have a lot to start here because we actually sat down and did podcast work while we were hanging out last week, and
we were productive. We're like, if we're not going to do a podcast, let's prepare.
Yeah, and I will give credit to our wives who were both there. They were like, well, why don't you record something because you're both doing it already? They were encouraging us to actually do some content for the show. And we were like, no, we just want to do this and have some fun. But I think after, like I said, next week will be 10 years, Mike. It is, they're just kind of like, yeah, just do the show. Just go on. It's good to have that support behind us rather than, than people dragging us down every week. So I really want to give a shout out to them for being like, yeah, record content. But we didn't. We went ahead and did it anyway, just out of the goodness of our hearts. So, Mike, do you want to get into this? Do you want to get into this conversation that we had a week ago, and we're going to have to refresh ourselves on why we did this?
I don't want to derail the podcast, but I feel like that is in the true heart and DNA of every podcast is just throw a wrench into the works, really muck up the transitions.
Oh,
and
no, that's fine.
I made a promise to our wives last week and to you yourselves that we were going to be talking about a very serious topic at the top of the show, and I scrolled real quick to make sure you didn't include it sneakily in there anymore. But Chris, I mean, it's the end of the year, but it's sad to say that there's a war brewing out there. It's dangerous on those streets, and if you don't know where to get the right chicken fingers,
it's
true. all gonna go to hell. There is a chicken finger war on the horizon.
I'm gonna call chicken
and
tenders.
This is the only. Chicken tender. Oh, that's part of the war. Are we calling them fingers? Or are we calling them tenders?
Chickens don't have fingers.
But I was so excited when I got to see you in person because it's like I think one of the first things I said to you, like, "Hey, did you know there's a chicken tender war brewing?" I didn't
even get to meet your daughter first. You were like, "Let's talk chicken tenders before you get a hold of my baby." I'm like, "That's fine." She's
not going anywhere. She's going to be sticking around for decades. This chicken tender war. We don't know what the world's going to look like next year.
That's right.
So this news came in hot and fast the other week where KFC is pulling a McDonald's which is extra confusing, and making their own version of Cosmix, but not really. It's a chicken finger place. Now, you might already be lost. I've said a few words already, and if you're not into the fast food snack world, you have no idea what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, so Cosmix is a spinoff of McDonald's where they're trying to be more like a Dunkin' Donuts. They've got a lot of fancy drinks and fancy I guess snack foods, or not really snack foods, donuts and sandwiches that are more to the Dunkin' Donuts, the breakfast kind of variety. It is not a McDonald's. You're not going there and getting a Big Mac. You're getting whatever they have on their menu, but their menu is expansive. Like, you want turmeric in your drink, you can get it. They have it. They don't even care. Like, yeah, we got fancy stuff. And there's one in Chicago and 10 in Texas. So they're trying to branch out and do other things under the quote unquote McDonald's umbrella. Now, Mike's talking about Cosmix. I would liken it, and before we get into it, the KFC thing is very much like Cane's, right? I think is what we likened it to very much, because that is a competitor in this chicken tender.
Exactly. And that's what's happening here. Raising Cane's is becoming so fiercely popular out there in the landscape. I mean, their spokesperson is Post Malone, which is crazy. One of the biggest artists out there right now, and he's propping up this chicken finger joint. And I feel like Raising Cane's has really distilled down to the heart of millennials of what we want. It's like, we don't want a whole chicken menu with lots of chicken options. They're like, no, not even the chicken sandwich. They could technically make a sandwich out of our chicken tenders if they want. We give them bread. But no, we are just going to make tenders and only tenders and a couple other sides, and we're going to sling these things all day. And they become so popular. They've grown so fast. I heard about them for the first time just a few years ago, and there was just a couple kind of down in the, I think, Texas area, and now all of a sudden LA has 5 of them, and we get a new one every 6 months, it feels like. And the lines they create are just absolutely crazy. They're In-N-Out style lines out here. So now KFC is like, hey, wait a minute, we make chicken. Why aren't people going crazy for our chicken fingers? Because the truth is, Chris, if you do a blind taste test, Raising Cane's chicken fingers really aren't all that special. It's a very straightforward tender, and they're not doing anything crazy. So KFC is like, hey, we're going to step up. We're going to compete. We're not just going to make a coupon. We're not just going to do a crazy new deal or sauce. We're going to create an entire restaurant called, it's Saucy, right?
Saucy,
I think is what it's called.
Because they don't believe in their chicken. They believe in the sauces for their chicken, Mike. That's the catch here.
I think it's a great pivot. It's a great angle. It's a perfect, unique selling proposition. I think they're going to have 20 some dipping sauces. They all seem to at least appear to be homemade or restaurant in-house made in some way, or at least they're making it look like
it. They're plastic containers with lids. You're not buying ketchup packets at Chick-fil-A style stuff, or the rip top things they have at McDonald's. They want you to feel, even if they didn't make them in-house, Mike, they want you to feel like they made them in-house.
Exactly. So I know we're being very hyperbolic right now, because there's only, I think, literally one of these right now. Yeah. And I think it's Orlando or Texas, I think, is where it's opening.
Anywhere we're not. But, that's where
yes. But I got to imagine if the war heats up, they're going to start sprouting up everywhere. And then I learned kind of organically that there's another kind of chicken adjacent restaurant that I only bring up because it's also a spinoff of Texas Roadhouse, which is a sit-down restaurant. And Chris, you live right by one, and I forgot what it's called.
So it's called Jaggers, and Mike is discovering this for the first time. I've known about them for about 4 or 5 years, but for those who don't know, Louisville, Kentucky is the headquarters of Texas Roadhouse, which is not in Texas. It is actually here in Louisville, Kentucky. So we have a Jaggers, and this is funny because literally before I hit any stoplight, I go right out of my neighborhood. Before I even hit a stoplight is a Jaggers. If I go left before I hit a stoplight is a Cane's, Mike. So I'm literally positioned in between both of these restaurants you're bringing up.
Ooh, we just got to get a Saucy's over there. I'm just saying, this is the beginning. I just want people to be aware. I want people to be in the know that things are heating up. We will be getting more Saucy's. I'm positive of it. I think we're going to be seeing more restaurant spin-offs, because we're already 3 spin-offs in. Who else is going to spin off and make a new restaurant? Exciting times. This is what I'm concentrating on going into 2025.
So, if you go look it up, KFC.com, they have Saucy. It's in Orlando. You were right. they have 11 signature sauces based on the 11 herbs and spices of the original recipe. And then they also have sippers, which have you heard of the drink place where it's like they just make drinks? It's a drive-through drink making place. I don't
Is
know
this like where they take like a soda or a cola and they add like syrups and flavors and creams to it?
Yeah, it's just all they do is make fancy drinks, Mike, and it's a drive-through. We have like 2 nearby. I want to say it's called Sippers, but it's not it. But like Saucy has a bunch of drinks. You want passion fruit, orange, guava, refresher? You're not getting that at KFC. You better head down to Orlando. My father-in-law just moved to Orlando, so I have a connection down there. Maybe I can get him to. Maybe I can visit and head over to the Saucy's. Whenever we're down there, but chicken tender awards are here. Pick a side. I wouldn't be surprised, Mike, if we start seeing the other restaurants having like I just imagine something Arby's is gonna do. Like I have a feeling Arby's, known for their roast beef, are going to enter like some sort of chicken tenders that they offer temporarily.
I love it. Just call it like the meats or the tender or something like that. Ooh, I'd be up in there.
Exactly. So we have that. But we're going to stay in the tradition of food, move over to the popcorn vessels. We have been talking about them all year. It is the year of the popcorn vessels. If you want to get into that, you could have got into it, bought some, sold them online. It's a whole racket online, Mike, if you really wanted to. But we are not the people who do that.
If anybody is just totally unaware and is just joining this podcast, just have been living under a rock, haven't been in the movie theaters in a while, the explosion in popularity of popcorn buckets has been kind of fascinating me and Chris all year. Like, this topic is the best way to surmise the podcast of the year, where movies are trying to make this comeback after the pandemic, right? Box office returns were down. You can't really count on China or international box offices as much anymore. So they've kind of created this whole new merchandising category of movies, and it's these popcorn buckets. And it's fascinating to see it just almost ride the wave of memeability, right? I don't think we would even have this tier list to show on the podcast right now if it wasn't for the Dune popcorn bucket. What do you think, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to be completely transparent. This is going to throw a wrench into this, Mike. My power is off at my house right now. Somehow we're still talking because I have battery backups. So our live feed is going to cancel, but I'm going to swap over to Discord on my phone, Mike. So if you want to talk a little bit about what we're preparing, I'm going to swap over to Discord on my phone, and we'll just keep the podcast rolling while we do that.
Yes, I'm honestly surprised a house without power still has internet.
Yeah, but it's Chris's house. But it's Chris's house. So I mean,
I don't know.
You know how
I don't know how it's working, but we're managing.
Yeah.
But yeah, these popcorn vessels have been crazy, and I think the proper term is actually vessel as well. We were looking at the Sonic the Hedgehog one while we were in person last week, and the nomenclature is now vessel. They've kind of detached themselves from the form of bucket, I guess, and they've just been going crazy. But I think my favorite part about us coming together in person last week, Chris, was not even necessarily the order in which we've landed on this tier list. We got S, A, B, C, D tiers filled out. But I more appreciated the qualifications that we kind of agreed on in general of just like, what's it take to move up from a D to a C, to a B to an A? What are these kind of criteria that we're looking for? Like, we've really solidified this kind of idea. So now whenever a new popcorn bucket, hits the landscape, we can almost instantly tier it right away, or at least kind of get it within throwing distance of what we deem a proper execution of a popcorn vessel.
Yeah, absolutely. We spent probably more time than we should have looking into this. So and arguing back, not really arguing, but like reasoning for everything here, right? And I'm gonna pull it up. So if you want to, if you're listening to us, you can actually I will have it embedded in our podcast show notes, but it is also in our video if you happen to make it over there. And I apologize for all the beeping, folks. That is my battery backups as the power comes back on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just go up from the bottom to the top. We just talk about our D, C, B, A, S tier. We tried our best to keep the buckets contained to 2024. So that's kind of how we've organized this year. There's a couple buckets I know we didn't include because they felt kind of superfluous, and I don't really remember which ones we didn't include. But
there was
if
a
they
lot.
weren't, if they weren't miraculous enough to like not even kind of fit the D tier, it was like, why even talk about them?
Yeah. Well, exactly. And honestly, you know, there's a lot of just like low hanging fruits, or like, oh, Regal would do one or two that were like, you know, essentially this a little different but same from like, you know, what an AMC was doing. So we didn't include everything, but I think these are the ones that would make enough headlines for us to kind of talk about it, right? And that, to me, that's important. Yeah. And I think we'll just start off the first one, the most basic, the lowest tier popcorn bucket you could buy, Mike, is
just the popcorn.
Just the regular popcorn bucket, like the ones that you didn't even try. Maybe even a bag might be below this if they offer popcorn bags, but you know, we'll take it.
It's the base level bucket, and even getting a bucket at the movie theater, I think is fun in general, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you're used to getting it in bags. Like, hey, guess what? We've upgraded. We're giving you so much popcorn. You need structural integrity to hold it all. Yeah. So it's just fun that you're even getting something that's not paper. So that's our base set. But I'll just go ahead and throw out our bottom two in the D tier is the Venom popcorn bucket and the Slimer popcorn bucket. Now, this is primarily a visual medium of the podcast, but I'll describe them. Essentially, they are just figures of these characters that are just kind of open mouths. So Venom has an open mouth, but also has a kind of just a gooey bucket where his head's kind of coming off of it. There's like two Venom buckets in this photo. Yeah. But I remember zooming in on this one with you in person, Chris, and like the mold didn't look particularly impressive. Like if you're looking at it as a small thumbnail, you're like, oh wow, that must be a really cool like hot toy or sideshow collectible. But when you kind of get up there in person, it's just not very remarkable. And kind of the same with Slimer as well. It's kind of a cool concept. I think it's cool. Yeah. It definitely is elevated above like just a paper bag. But you kind of coined something when we met last week of just like, if it's just an open mouth, it doesn't feel like you're being super creative with it.
And I will tell you, looking at these and having had that green Slimer one here for my friend who gave to his kids, it's hard plastic and it's got a bunch of intricate cavities in there. So it's like imagine trying to clean this, like trying to clean these or put your hand in there. Like it's not fun. It's not, you know, easy. It may look cool on a shelf, but like, you know, at the same time, like I want to use these for popcorn for what they're used for, right? So like you got to look at it both ways. So these are more like, I guess, busts or like, you know, things you put on a shelf, but like really, really awful popcorn. I'm going to use the word vessels because they're not even really a bucket at the end of the day. Well, that Venom one's a bucket, but you know, there's just a lot of that leaves that's to be desired on these two.
Yeah, and then, you know, we go ahead and we move on up to C tier, and we have a total of 5 buckets here now. So kind of in ascending order, we have one of the Gladiator 2 buckets, which appears to be just a Gladiator helmet, maybe adorned on top of a traditional bucket. We have the Sonic the Hedgehog bucket, which looks like a lobotomized Sonic, where, you know, you just kind of slice the top 10% of his head open and you have your bucket. Similar with these Transformer 1 buckets, also just you lift up the cranium.
There's a trend there with those 3, right? Like they're literally just heads chopped open for all 3 of these. Yes,
exactly. And then a movie that came out just recently, I haven't seen it. It's the Nosferatu bucket, which is kind of like a coffin that opens up, which I think is kind of fun and interesting. You know, they're trying to find any sort of object in this very dark and thriller. I'm assuming it's a scary movie. I don't even think I've seen a trailer for it. I think I've just seen like little teaser banner ads.
Well, I mean, Nosferatu, it's a remake of the one from the 20s. It's essentially a vampire coffin, right? Like it's literally just a coffin a vampire would come in, and you know it's fine. It might be for the right audience, but as you mentioned, Mike, it's no different than a popcorn square with a lid, right? At the end of the day, it's it's low effort. It might be right for some people, but it's pretty low effort throughout that.
Yeah. And then the top of the C tier, we have the Mufasa bucket, which is Mufasa on Pride Rock. And then similar to the head popcorn buckets, you just The top like 10% of Pride Rock hinges open and there's popcorn in there. Now this one you kind of have to click and zoom in on because the model, the cast, if you will, of Mufasa is scary. He looks like emaciated. It's very spooky and creepy, which, of course, you'd say, okay, why are you being so picky about the cast of a popcorn bucket? The thing is, once you get higher up on these tiers, you start to transition away from this looks like something you bought at the movie theater to this looks like a collectible you bought online that just happens to have a cavity inside of it that you could put anything in. Yep. So that is our C tier. So I would say moving from...
Well, I was also saying, the thing about Mufasa is, it's Disney. It's kind of, for kids, you'd think they'd have something a little more fun, which, Disney did come back in and save themselves in later on. But yeah, C tier is better than a bucket, but like still low effort, right? Like that's how I think we rank it. It's like lowest effort possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much Timon and Pumbaa show up in any of these live-action Lion King movies because I haven't seen any of them. But I want like a bucket that has like a bunch of like of those big juicy grubs, and like I don't know, you're like wading through like a bunch of grubs to get through your popcorn.
Well, they had that log. I know it's not Mufasa, but like in the Lion King, they open that log and the bugs come out, right? Like the log, or even Rafiki has like his staff and like other items in these movies that are not just. Hey, probably I wouldn't be surprised if this was wasn't a reprint from another Lion King movie or the first Lion King movie. Popcorn bucket.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So now as we transition from C tier to B tier, I think this is when we start to get creative solutions and ideas for buckets. So not necessarily entering the top 2 tiers, but definitely these are things that are probably going to be making headlines, worthy of making articles about online, but maybe not exactly the cream of the crop.
These might be ones Mike's mom might see in the movie theater and make a comment on.
Yes.
Where I'd put them. Like as we start to get into this realm.
Yes, the parent test for sure, which I guess I'm a parent now, so are people going to be saying that about me soon? But we're starting with a Wicked popcorn bucket, which I haven't seen Wicked yet, but it is being merchandised out the butt. I was in Barnes & Noble yesterday, and there's like there's a quarter of that entire store that's all dedicated to Wicked right now. It's crazy. But this is like it's like a witch's hat popcorn bucket.
That's a sipper. That's the sipper, right? Remember we talked about it. That you can see.
Oh yeah, that's the sipper.
So the Wicked had the reason these are in here. So the Wicked sipper, Mike was like, I wish the hat turned upside down and was the popcorn vessel. But the vessels actually include light up panels that you can see through. And when
that's what it was.
Yeah, when we start talking about LED panels and like light ups and extra features, they become again elevated above effort. Like I'm gonna have to replace batteries in this one day. It's worth the money probably a little bit more. But the witch's hat, the sipper, was enough to kind of elevate the popcorn buckets around it into this.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. We got a nacho vessel to talk about a little bit later in this tier. So I think the broad idea, we say popcorn bucket because it's easier for people to wrap their heads around, but I think any sort of iconic movie theater snack qualifies to make it on this list. And we move up next to Beetlejuice, and I just think this is a really beautiful execution of a plastic mold, and it's the kind of a black and white worm creature that's in the Beetlejuice movie, and it's it's kind of forming a more of a traditional popcorn shape, a popcorn bucket shape, which maybe kind of keeps it in B tier. But it's just cool. It's like a nice little wrap around. I feel like if somebody was like a Beetlejuice collector or something, this would look really good on a shelf, maybe next to like some Beetlejuice action figures or other memorabilia. So I really like it.
And this is like something, like I said, like, we talked about Mufasa. If they could have used anything else, I'm really surprised they didn't. There might be one, but like Beetlejuice's head that opens up because he's technically dead, right, or something like that. But to take an iconic creature from the first Beetlejuice movie and the second one, and then figure out how do we put stuff in this by wrapping it around. That's where they got creative, and I think that's where they get a lot of points for that along the way.
Now this one, I think, would be our first controversial placement on this tier list. Maybe where people would say like, no, this deserves a higher spot. And I almost did too, but Chris, you kind of convinced me. This is the Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn buckets, where we have Wolverine as the thumbnail on our tier list, but I believe you're kind of talking about just the idea and spirit of these are open mouths that are mimicking the Dune popcorn bucket.
Yeah, essentially, higher up we'll talk about what the popcorn bucket this is based on, but Deadpool, it's all based on the Dune one, right? They're trying to be crude, they're trying to be funny, they're trying to capitalize on something else, and yes, it does work, but it's not original. Had the Dune bucket not existed to begin with, the Wolverine definitely would have been one of the top tiers, but because it's trying to ride the Dune coattails a little bit and lean into its crude humor, it's not all the way there. It's fun to have, it's great to have, but it's well made. Even with the felt that in the mouth, before you even get to the popcorn, it's wonderful, but it's not the most creative thing out there. It's just, like you said, riding the coattails of something that came before.
Yeah, kind of hard to display too. It's like, do you display it on its side? Do you display it pointing up? Because that's a whole other thing about these popcorn buckets. 99% of their life is on your shelf. I doubt people are actually using them as popcorn buckets that often after they get them home from the theater. But these next three are pretty fun, and I'll just drop them all. There's a Despicable Me bucket, which kind of looks like a child baby carrier, which is a fun, unique idea on the popcorn bucket. There's a Alien Romulus
container
bucket that glows. It has the lights that you're looking for. It's mimicking an object from the movie as well. And then I think the top of the B tier, we both agreed, from a terrible movie, I hear, is Claptrap from the Borderlands movie. I mean, this just looks like a collectible figure of Claptrap, and he luckily is like the shape of a popcorn.
He is the shape of a popcorn bucket. I'm pretty sure it's metal. The mold is fantastic. The details are there, and his eye lights up. This is a collector piece that you could you probably not using it in the movie theater. You're probably not putting popcorn in it. So I think I agree with you. It elevates everything. The Alien Romulus one's pretty cool if you're an Alien fan. Probably more than the Xenomorph head, because how do you display the Xenomorph head one too, right? That's one of those ones. Everyone's gonna have it. So I think these two, Borderlands and Alien Romulus, are shelf displays that people will be like, oh, is that like an actual prop from the movie? No, it's just a popcorn vessel I bought at the thing. And those really deserve the high placement we put on the B tier here. And then I'm going to go into A tier. The bottom of the A tier is one of, and I think we had the biggest conversation about this bucket, Mike, because one, it's a bucket, but two, it's unconventional. And I think that to me, it is elevated itself simply because it's never been done before, and it's probably be either overdone or never done again. And that is the second Gladiator 2 bucket with the QR code, where you buy the bucket, it looks like the Coliseum, and then you scan it with the QR code or the AR app, and then you get to see battles inside your popcorn bucket. And while it's just a circular bucket, absolutely, that technology hasn't been done before, and I'm going to give it creativity notes for doing that, because it'll either be overdone by everyone else who doesn't want to make a popcorn bucket with details, or we'll never see it again because it was, that everyone just wants to do a plastic mold because it's probably cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, Chris and I came to a consensus. I kind of wanted it lower, but this is a group effort on this tier list, and I thought, I think bottom of A tier is fine. I do like the argument that Chris makes of it's bringing some originality to the land of popcorn buckets with AR, even though I don't think I've ever taken advantage of any singular AR feature on anything I've ever come across in real life. But maybe if they can find a way to make it a little bit easier. I just hate how there's always an extra app that you have to download. It's never native to whatever device that you're holding. And it's when you open up an app, they want you to create an account and everything. And it's just no, this is too much. But it's cool. Yeah. It's original. It's what do you do after you put LEDs and batteries in it? Let's put another layer of reality on top of it.
And it would be cool if you could if it was gamified, if I had one and you had one, we could put our own characters to battle in them, something like a Beyblade or something weird like that. But it's the first of its kind. It may not last but they did do something we hadn't seen before, and I give them props.
Now I did not think about the Beyblade angle, and I love it because this is exactly the type of a place that a Beyblade should attack. And also, I don't know why, but Timothée Chalamet this year went to some sort of movie red carpet, and he was holding a Beyblade in his photos. I think that is super cool.
That's a flex.
Timothée Chalamet, this is his year. Like, even though he's been in other big movies before this, he is he's hitting the stratosphere.
You know who he looks like? He looks like Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I like if you just put a couple like crimps in his hair, he could probably pull off the Yu-Gi-Oh thing pretty well.
Yami Yugi, I love it.
Yeah.
But next up, this could possibly controversial because I think some people might consider this the single best popcorn bucket of all time, like S++ tier. But I think we had a really smart, engaged conversation about this. Yes. Next up, the second to last in the A tier is the Dune popcorn bucket.
Yes.
And I think one of the main reasons it's even in A at all is just what it's done for the popcorn bucket community. And the line, the memeability, the headlines, it totally changed the game. But I think if you look at the bucket objectionally, it's like it's funny, but like it's just bay. It's gray. It's an object sitting on top of a bucket.
That's it.
It's literally a bucket.
So I literally have this bucket on my shelf. The bottom is thin, cheap metal. And the top is supposed to look like a sandworm. Yeah, it got people talking. It's got rubber on it instead of plastic for the little, mouth tendrils or whatever. But the bottom is it literally just sits on. It comes in two pieces. The bottom bucket's easily dentable, so like it's not high quality. And if it was made with better quality and intent, absolutely S tier. But like it is just once you have it, you're like, yeah, it's fine at the end of the day. So I'm glad it did. I'm glad it brought popcorn buckets. And creative ideas to the forefront, and it deserves that recognition. But it is nothing that you're like, I'm glad I have this at the end of the day. Like I'm going to be using it. And then the next one,
and
I said the next one's a two for Mike, and Mike let me do this because we weren't going to talk about drink vessels in this, but this week, Friday, Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim came out on streaming, but with that, when it came to theaters, was the popcorn bucket that a lot of people sent me outside of the show. And it is a 28-inch Warhammer. It's hard to even put in a square image here. You can't even tell. But it's essentially a battle hammer that opens up to be a popcorn vessel. And with that comes a drink cup that, if you're buying the Warhammer, you're buying the Stein of War. People aren't just buying one or the other. You're buying both if you're a Lord of the Rings fan buying this, right? And that Warhammer is just really cool to be like that big and be selling it in movie theaters for this.
Yeah, and I don't even know how the hammer works configuration. Like, is it coming? Does the popcorn open up from the end that you strike? Is it at the top? I'm trying to figure out how you even get this in a movie theater. Like, does the handle like stretch across the two people sitting on the other side of you, and they're just okay with it because this is cool. It's a hammer.
It's cool, but not functional in a theater.
Yes, it's a bold take for a popcorn bucket, and especially for a movie that probably didn't even need to go to theaters to begin with, but I'm hearing people say it was just Warner Brothers' way to keep the rights to Lord of the Rings. They just had to keep cranking out movies that were technically a theatrical release. So I don't even know. I'm not going to get into that.
I was going to say, I don't think it was rushed out because it was animated, but at the same time, I'm glad any movie, even animated, are on the table for getting popcorn vessels, right, and drink vessels this year. Like it's not just the blockbusters, it's any movie that could come out. And the one that I didn't get, Mike, that I wish I got, tops off our A-list tier, and it is the Inside Out console, and it is a little bean-shaped thing where the popcorn goes in the middle. You lift up a lid, put the popcorn in, and it's got a drink holder on the right with like the little flanges. You have everything in one, and I didn't even get this. I didn't even get to see it, Mike, and I regret not having this one at home. For sure.
Yeah, this was crazy. We had to do a little bit of research on tracking this one down for a movie that was one of the biggest animated movies of all time and of the year. Not a lot of people were talking about this popcorn bucket, but it's pretty cool. And I think this would be great for a kid in the theater too. Like this is very lappable. You put it on their lap, they got a drink there, they got the popcorn. If there's a part of the movie that gets a little bit slow and loses their attention, they can just like play with the popcorn bucket for a second. Yeah. But I think this rounds out the A tier pretty well, and we're gonna go basically to our S tier, our top three. The three favorite buckets of the year. And they're kind of all slightly different in their own way. Yeah. Where one that we talked about a few weeks ago on the show, which is kind of changing the dynamic of the vessel itself. This is the Nacho boat.
Yes, Moana
from Moana 2, which I think we just really liked that this bucket in the year of 2024 is kind of changing the dynamic of we don't just have to do sippers or popcorn anymore. Let's start looking at the other snacks behind the counter.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that idea. So now we have something that can contain cheese and chips.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's one of those things, if this comes out, it's only going to push creativity for next year. Like, what's the hot dog holder? What's the chicken tender holder? Mike, what are we going to get over the next 2025 in terms of these things? Because, going to the movies is fun. It is expensive, but I don't care to go buy something like this at the movie theater. I wish I don't have the nacho boat. My only complaint against it is I wish Moana wasn't on it. I wish it was just the boat without the character. It's nothing against Moana, but like when the character is on it, it's very like, oh, this is what it goes to. So that's my only complaint. But the other two S tiers I do have, Mike, and I think it's funny. Both of these harken back to 80s movies, if you think about it.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
and both of these make S tier, I think, overwhelmingly because they just look amazing.
Yes.
If you put these on the shelf in a store or on sideshowcollectible.com, you would just think that these are really cool collectibles. But then you start clicking through, the little gallery on your phone, and then you see like, oh, the fourth picture in, you can put popcorn in it. So this next one was a surprise. It wasn't really tied to any theatrical release as far as I know. And it's the Bat Signal popcorn bucket.
Yes.
I think it was celebrating some sort of anniversary this year.
Yeah, they did a re-release of Batman, the first movie, maybe Batman Returns, one of the two. I think it's the 25th year of Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, right, from '89. So they did the Bat Signal, and it is very highly detailed plastic. The Bat Signal part rotates. Mike, I have this. It actually rotates. It can be vertical. It's got a stand, so you can have it sitting flat. Put popcorn in it, put it over. Then there's an LED light in the middle that lights up and puts the Bat Signal out with the light. So like I literally have had it over here, Bat Signal on the ceiling, Bat Signal on the wall, playing with it because it is such a really cool thing. I think everyone would know what this is, right? You don't have to educate people what property it belongs to. Like, I don't think, Mike, your mom would know what Borderlands is, but she's going to know what that Bat Signal does at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
So I love it. It's one of my favorite pieces, but it's only transcended by one more of these.
Yes.
vessels.
And this one, it really engaged both of us when we saw it pop into the headlines. And this is the Ghost Trap.
Yes.
From Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. It looks like a movie prop. It literally looks like a prop from the movie. You could get this and make your own Ghostbuster short film, and it would be the highest end prop that you have in it.
It is I have this. It is fantastic. It's got wheels on the bottom. All the knobs and dials turn. They don't do anything. They're just plastic, but they actually move. Right? It's not just molded plastic on there. They actually rotate. The trap closes. It's got bright LEDs in it. And my favorite part about this, the part that holds the popcorn in this popcorn holder, vessel, bucket, whatever, is a purple piece that sets on top of the trap. So you can light it up with the popcorn in it or not. But when you take it out, you don't have to wash the whole thing, Mike. You're just washing the clear purple part that looks like the ghost trap opening up and sucking in the ghost. It is super smart. I actually use it to hold my microwave popcorn packs right now in there because it's just so multi-purpose at the end of the day.
Perfect. I love it. I mean, they just really went outside of the box. You could easily see what they could have done with the Nosferatu bucket of like, oh, we have this ghost trap. Let's just open up the door and put the popcorn in there. Like, no, let's play with the lighting effect. Let's make the visual effect that appears in the movie is holding the popcorn. And it just looks great. I love that, though, there's wheels on the bottom of it. They did not need to have movable wheels on it at all. But they're like, no, we're just going to straight up make a toy. This is going to be, it's like
a Ghostbusters
also
fan.
Like
a Ghostbusters fan made this, not just a marketing person. And that's how you can tell.
Yeah. And I think the greatest thing about every popcorn bucket that we've talked about in this segment for like the last 40 minutes, which is like crazy, is that all of these are relatively affordable.
Yeah.
I have not really been keeping track of the price of popcorn buckets, but they know they're not going to be able to get a lot of money out of people at the concession stand because you're already paying such a premium for these snacks. If I had to guess, I wouldn't think any of these popcorn buckets would be over $40, which kind of sounds crazy to say it, but you're getting some really high end kind of merchandise once you get into the S tier. So nothing really here is going to break your wallet all that much. No. And the cool thing is, if the movie, hopefully that is associated with the bucket, is good, you'll have a nice memory tied to this object that you have on your shelf. So yeah, I think this was a great exercise, Chris, of trying to figure out what we like and don't like about popcorn buckets. And surprisingly, how much just innovation can skyrocket you up the list. Yeah. Like, I don't think the render or the cast of the nacho boat is really all that fantastic. Right. It kind of just looks like a cheap toy you'd get at Walmart. But I just like that they're changing the game. Yeah, no one. And it's in its historical context.
Yeah, no one really thought about that. You know, they used to be popcorn buckets and bags, and now we have a whole section dedicated to these. It's fun. We have some. We collect them. The hardest part is, if you don't have a theater near you, getting them while you can. If you want to get them, but it's kind of, it feels like the Funko bubble here, Mike, because it will burst. The popcorn thing will burst, and you don't have to catch them all. You just got to get the ones you want and that mean something to you. And we have several here. I will say my wife has the Taylor Swift popcorn bucket from the Eras tour when it hit the theaters earlier this year. And the one thing about it is it's just a round thing with it's decorated in the Eras tour. She loves it to death. One of her favorite ones. Doesn't mean anything to me. It's you wouldn't make it on this list because it's more like the regular popcorn bucket, but they have vessels for everybody, Mike, and I think that's really cool. As we kind of go
and
forward.
you can't half-heartedly think about them anymore. I'm really excited to see what Avatar does in the popcorn bucket space. We got a Jurassic Park movie coming out next year. Mm-hmm. We're gonna be talking about Superman here in a couple minutes.
Fantastic Four, to me, the fact that it's like a retro-futuristic world that doesn't really exist, how creative they can get, because it doesn't have to be real.
Yes, exactly. So. Could be really fun. But Chris, I just counted. We have 16 topics to go through.
Yeah, we
here.
do. It's been 2 weeks.
And I absolutely love how much time we spent on the popcorn buckets. Yeah. No regrets at all. But we might have to kind of lightning round these a little bit.
Yeah, and that's fine. So we'll start off here. Netflix, Mike. I just thought this was interesting. We don't have to discuss on too much, but a new mandate was uncovered from a company doing research at Netflix, saying that Netflix executives have said that if you're going to make content for our platform, characters must explicitly state their actions and intentions to accommodate distracted viewers who might be treating movies as background noise. So they are anytime you watch them on Netflix, you're like, boy, this seems really boring, or they're over expositioning things. Well, an executive said someone's just watching stuff in the background. They're not really paying attention to a streaming service. To
that, I would say, what is the point?
Yeah.
You already have them. They're subscribed and they have it turned on.
Yeah.
You don't need them to retain the information anymore. Shut up.
I think this is just for stuff they're creating for their platform specifically, or movies for their platforms, rather than licensing things. So licensing things, obviously you're going to do that, but it's just one of those things. Netflix knows people just stream, they're not actively watching, they're passively watching things, and now if we're going to create things for them, we have to cater to the lowest common denominator, Mike. Those people who lean over, what happened in this movie, what's going on, who's that again? So if you ever get that point, you see those on your Netflix shows, that would be a reason why, right there. We're getting to some Batman or DC news proper, I guess. The Batman 2 has been delayed a full year to October 1st, 2027, and this was a day after James Gunn said Clayface and Batman have no overlap, because Clayface was September 26th, Batman was October 26th. So James Gunn, obviously, I don't believe him. He's a studio executive. He's gonna lie. I'll just say that out there. I don't believe studio executives have everyone's best interest in mind. So he has said the only reason for the delay is that there isn't a full script for the Batman 2, which I believe. And a rumor is that the script is currently VFX heavy, and people are like, oh, is that going to be a Mr. Freeze movie? Mike, do you think Mr. Freeze could live in this realistic Batman universe at all?
I mean, I think he has one of the most realistic backstories for a villain, and we've yet to see him adapted to the screen. So I think it makes sense that we would see him sooner rather than later.
I'd much rather see him than a Joker or like anyone we've seen recently, right? A Bane or anything like that. Revisiting the Mr. Freeze would be great. It's also internally now called Untitled Batman sequel rather than Part 2 or 2. So we'll keep calling it the Batman 2 here for ease sake, but it sounds like they're going through a title change. I will add a little color context, not in the notes, Mike. Some people believe the delay on this for production isn't even starting until mid to late 2025 is to see if Superman delivers or not. If Superman doesn't land, will they retool every DC property? I think we did talk about that the other week. Yeah, which is crazy. So the fact that it's been delayed kind of leans a little credence into that. But I just think it's one of those things like Batman will deliver regardless. But like 5 years between Batman movies, is wild when that's one of your heavy money makers, right? So we'll see how that goes when it comes out October 27th. And then also the other Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold, that was announced by James Gunn with his new DC universe. The director, Andy Muschietti, has confirmed that the film is postponed and he will probably work on another movie beforehand. So I don't think we had a release date for The Brave and the Bold, so no one can say it's quote-unquote postponed. But if he's able to work on another movie in between, we're not going to get a Brave and the Bold movie anytime soon. I feel right.
Yeah, well, they got to figure out the current Batman before they can figure out the next Batman. Yeah. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, just do all the Batmans. I think it's going to come down to again, like I said, Superman is going to be a little different. But we're going to go talk about the Superman. Mike, the Superman trailer dropped last week, and I don't even think we talked about it until we were in person hanging out last week about this. And the only thing you said like, hey, you should put the Superman trailer on your Superman TV. And I tried it, and it doesn't work very well. You can't film it because tube TVs have a refresh rate that phones don't have. But Superman teaser trailer, we got to see a lot of different characters in this. Very emotional, very relied on what's the word here? Nostalgia for John Williams' iconic score. I told you, Mike, this trailer reminds me of the Force Awakens trailer. And that was like an original take. It's like, oh, there's, an emotional John Williams score. There are scenes of actions and like, again, emotional reaction scenes. And then they use the phrase, we're home, like Chewie, we're home. And then this one's like, take me home, crypto kind of thing. So it's a very interesting trailer. A lot of people reacted to it, I guess, positively. Some people, I guess, did not, but I put it in here for SEO purposes. Like, we got to see a lot more characters than just Superman in this trailer than I thought we were going to see, right?
Yeah, they really kind of gave us a little bit of everything that we've been seeing in those on set, quote set as an outside photos. So we got to see the crazy bowl cut on that Green Lantern. Yep. Brief shot of Hawk Girl. We have some Mr. Terrific in there. Crypto, obviously. Yep. I don't remember seeing Metamorpho.
It's just his face. He's got like lines on his face, but you can see his other stuff on his shoulders. He seems to be locked up with Superman, possibly at one point. Nicholas Holt's Superman, the masked, Ultraman that we're calling Ultraman. The engineer briefly coming down into the LexCorp building, and then obviously an unnamed, unsourced kaiju creature. James Gunn loves his big kaijus in his movies, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in one of the many times he's been on the internet in the last week or so, he said that his Lex Luthor is actually very frightening, very smart, maybe the most formidable human on the planet. So I could maybe see him, I don't know, commanding a kaiju in some way, I don't know exactly where that could be coming from. But the overall vibes of the trailer I thought were really, really cool. Of course, it released on a day where I was traveling across the country through different airplanes and plane and trains and automobiles and all those different things. So I had to wait like all day to watch it on my phone. But it was cool. I liked it. It was exciting. I feel like there's just not a lot. It feels weird because if you counted up all the time Superman has been in the movies, it's been a lot. But it just feels like I haven't really gotten a lot of Superman movies in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. So at least it's fresh and an exciting proposition to have on the horizon.
We are post Christopher Reeve Superman age, right? Like we grew up with the TV show Lois and Clark and Smallville more than we actually got movie Supermans, because they did Superman Returns, which didn't really land. I couldn't tell you anything about that movie other than the guy was like machine gunning him and the bullets are bouncing off his eye. Like other than that, I don't know anything else about that movie. And then obviously Zack Snyder stuff. So yeah, we are in a our first a unique Superman. Yeah, I'm fine with the trailer. I've got no qualms. It gives me a little bit of excitement. We got July is going to be a great month for movies along the way. I will say, some industry scoopers on the Hot Mic podcast revealed that test screening viewers have said, and I quote, "The buzz is not good. I'm hearing bad things. I'm hearing you should be worried things." And it sounds like James Gunn is aware of some of the feedback. And someone who has seen the Superman thing told him that it has the tone of the first Captain America movie and like the humor of the Mummy films, the original ones. I don't know if that's true. Well, I don't know if someone's trying to bring it down, but I'm like, well, he has 7-8 months to fix anything he wants to. So,
well, also, I feel like that's a bit of an oxymoron of telling me I should be worried, but then also quoting two movies that I like. Uh-huh. I like the first Captain America movie, and I love the Mummy films. Yeah. They're great. So if you told me like, oh, the next Superman movie, it's going to be like a little bit like Captain America meets Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, I'd be like, sign me up. Yeah. So I don't really know what to take away
I don't either.
From that.
Well, and I'm sure more people are here to say bad things. Like you don't leave a good review, right? Most people leave bad reviews of experience. So is that what we're hearing here? What's going on?
Well,
Emily,
and go ahead. From what I've seen in James Gunn's work and his history, I don't think James Gunn can make something that's bad. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes he can make things that kind of get annoying or he can get overindulgent. But yeah. I think on the whole, he knows how to make a competent piece of entertainment. Yeah. The bigger question is this going to connect to a wide audience? Is this going to launch a franchise? Is this going to be something that reinvigorates an entire movie studio? That's a bigger question. But I don't think he has it in him to make something that, quote, you should be worried about. Yeah. So it seems to be maybe that is more leaning towards rumor, but I don't know. I would say I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and again, these are people who tend to be more right than wrong when you look at their track records. And I'd say at best it could be mid, right? Like again, how much they don't have a completed film. Is it because the effects are there? Are they still editing? What did they see in this early screening kind of thing? So I'd be interested to see what comes out of this, but they have plenty of time to recover and change things if it is that bad. I don't think it will be. Like I said, James does not make a bad movie. At best it'll be mid, and then up from there. Like his worst thing would just be that's fine from there. So I think we've got some opportunities, but I'm interested to see kind of how the Superman marketing approach comes from here, because this trailer, we get to see Superman, we get to see Lois Lane, we get to see some stuff back and forth. It's already an existing world. We get to see some of the Fortress of Solitude, his robot that guards the Fortress of Solitude. There's a lot of story points that we just don't know. This is just a teaser, so I'm excited to see more as we get closer and it comes out in July. Mike, I put this in here for you. Karate Kid Legends had a trailer drop this week. Were you able to catch that at all? Because I know you're a fan of the Cobra Kai show, and
yeah, I caught it. It's kind of crazy seeing Ralph Macchio kind of filmed in a more serious lens, literally. Curious if this is going to connect in any way to Cobra Kai, even if it's just like a loose one-off line that says, "Oh, it's been a crazy couple years back home." Just anything that connects it. I don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, it looks like it could be fun.
Yeah,
I'd probably catch it on streaming though. I don't think I'm heading to the movies for this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't grow up with the Karate Kid, so for me, I don't have a connection. I didn't watch the soft reboot with Jackie Chan and Will Smith's kid back in 2011 or whatever. but it is bringing them all together. Like, you know, they're technically in the same universe of the original Karate Kid. I've heard it's connected to Cobra Kai as well, and then the Jackie Chan Karate Kid. So it's all coming together. It's called Legends. I'm hoping hear good things. So Sony needs a win, Mike. It doesn't sound like they're doing too hot. We'll talk about that more at the end of the show. Another little bit here I kind of put here because I thought we would, based on time, but the movie Sinners, the upcoming Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan film, was apparently shot on film, like actual film stock, not like literal, not digital. And it was swapped places with another movie from March to April 18th because there's a lack of development labs. And I never thought we'd get to the point where, obviously they're shooting on film, but like movies have to be delayed because they can't make the film reels fast enough for them. So I thought that was an interesting take.
They got to find some local high schools.
Yeah.
I feel like they still are operating on dark rooms, teaching kids how to use
red lights,
how to use photography. Yeah, just get them have them do a couple shots each. You reach out to the community.
Yeah. So I mentioned this movie. Obviously Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan reteaming from the first Black Panther movie. I'd be interested to check that out. But that brings us into our next point here. Is that Black Panther 3 movie has been confirmed by Marvel Studios. We don't have a release date. We don't have anything else. Kevin Feige, obviously, and Nate Moore said it. We're talking about it because Nate Moore is leaving Marvel Studios to do other projects, as any producer does. They move from studio to studio over time. He will continue to help produce, and he is working on Black Panther 3 on his way out. So it's sad that we're losing a great producer, probably an unnamed producer. A lot of people don't know who Nate Moore is at Marvel. They just know, again, Kevin Feige, but he's been in the background producing Black Panther movies and other stuff. But they did say Black Panther 3 was in the works while he was on his way out along the way. So, good to know. Where will it be? Obviously, it will be post Secret Wars, but I'm interested to see where they picked it up and how they do that. We're going to get into Captain America Brave New World. A scrapped post-credit scene was revealed. And I say this is a rumor because it was scrapped. So I don't know if someone made it up or how they figured out it's not being used because the movie's not out yet. But where President Ross is assumed dead and shows up outside his daughter's window to continue being the Red Hulk in secret. Sounds interesting if he's going to be a secret Red Hulk.
I think the strategy here, especially when they brought in Harrison Ford to play Thunderbolt Ross, I think you're creating this character of Red Hulk that could exist in the MCU for maybe even longer than, hopefully not, but this actor could be alive. Yeah. So my guess is
he's the second Ross. I mean, already. So the other thing. Yes. So.
Yeah, my guess is if President Ross truly is turning into the Red Hulk, will be staying as the Red Hulk in perpetuity, so they don't have to bring Harrison Ford in to do any more filming.
Right.
He's our cranky old miser, and we love him, but I don't think he has the patience for the MCU. No. So
he might like the paychecks.
Yes, exactly. And also he probably still would get the paychecks. The Red Hulk would be in his likeness. I'm sure they would be using some sort of modulation of his voice for the Hulk to scream. So he'd still be getting paychecks, and you could probably still put his name technically on the poster. Yeah. But I feel like he in his human form will be minimal after this movie.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think that to me, if they deleted the part where he's assumed dead, is that he is they probably, when they retold the movie, that he's no longer dead. Maybe they have him in prison somewhere, doing experiments on him. I don't know, but it brought up the thing. I'm like, he's just becoming president in this movie, and like every time we come to the MCU in like through like the American lens, like they have new government leadership like every few days. Like, oh, Iron Man 3, the president was in that, remember? And then he was kidnapped by the burning dudes, and then in Winter Soldier, everyone was a Hydra agent. So like, I get it that politicians is a political thriller, but like, how many corrupt or like transforming politicians can you go through, man? Like, I mean, let's get to I know it's Captain America. Yes, it's in there, but like, come on, come up with something a little more creative than killing off all your presidents along the way. That movie's coming up. I think that's is that February, right? I think Captain America Brave New World's February release. So we are February 14th, Valentine's Day. We are coming up on 6 weeks away, Mike, before our next Marvel movie. So very excited for that.
On the heels.
Nova, the TV the show, I guess is what it's going to be, has brought on Ed Bernero from Criminal Minds as a showrunner and writer for the show, and it will focus on Richard Rider as the main character, and confirmed to also have an ensemble of characters from Brad Winderbaum, who was the head of Marvel Television, along the way. So it sounds like they're picking up a little bit of speed, or I guess steam, to get that show running now. A lot of people have been clamoring for it.
Yeah, Nova's been has been a sore missing component from the cosmic part of Marvel, so excited to see the character.
And that ties into my next topic. Is the rumor is that the next phase of the MCU is going to be cosmic focused, and starting, quote unquote, the countdown to Annihilation. And Annihilation is a 2007 comic book series where the character Annihilus took his wave of his army, kind of like bug-like creatures, across the galaxy, wiping out planets, taking over, things like that. One of my favorite comic book series by far. If you like Marvel and you like space stuff, Annihilation and Annihilation Conquest are awesome. They were some of my favorite books in Marvel. But it'll be very cosmic focused. Could include, obviously, the legendary Star-Lord. We saw him return. The Nova Corps. We got Nova. Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, the Eternals are out there in space somewhere if they want to bring them back, tie them into something. Captain Marvel. Sounds like we're going to get rid of the multiverse and just deal with space stuff, Mike, kind of going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're in store for a lot of pivots, which I think is exciting because, we're going to be talking about What If here in a second. But yeah, I feel like everything in general needs to be refocused eventually, and an Annihilation could be a way to do it.
Yeah, well, with Annihilation, you also trim stuff back. I didn't put it in here, but Galactus could be something, right? If Galactus comes into our universe with Fantastic Four, they could include Galactus in the MCU's version of Annihilation. They like to use the titles, but not the characters sometime. So absolutely, I feel like we are still fishtailing, if you will, from the overcorrection from the COVID Chapek era of Marvel, and hopefully they come out of Secret Wars the other side with that, like you mentioned, that focus and story. Also, real quick, Avengers Secret Wars, a little bit of rumor on that, and they've said when bringing back legacy characters for Secret Wars, everyone is on the table and from all formats. And I was like, oh, that could open up the doors for Dolph Lundgren's Punisher. Remember from like the 90s, or the 90s movie, or the robotic ones like Howard the Duck. Mike, imagine getting the live action Howard the Duck in Secret Wars as like a little throwaway. Or including animated versions. I've heard they were talking about maybe trying to get some of the Spider-Verse characters into Secret Wars down the road. So not saying all these are on the table, but like they could be, right, along the way.
It sounds like anything in which they could legally get cleared from a lawyer could make it into this movie.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that they're going to put them all in there. It just means if they wanted to, they could. So I'm excited to see that kind of come to life as we get going through that. What If season 3 ended today, Mike? I watched the final episode this morning before we started recording, and you've picked, and you've got to go through a couple of the shows a little bit, you said, as well this week.
I picked and chose a couple episodes when I had a little bit of downtime.
We watched them all in like two bursts, like the first half and the second half here, or maybe 3 bursts. They really pushed that mech one, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, the mech one was fine. Of all of them.
Interesting one to lead with, because that is one I watched as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, there is a lot of exposition and backstory to get this episode set up. It took a while for them to kind of get to the point.
It is. I will say though, it does scratch that what if itch I need, where it's like, oh, this is actually a very different universe, rather than, hey, what if everyone got a Hulkbuster, but there's a reason they have a Hulkbuster suit. I mean, like, I really enjoyed that it was very different than just a small change, a small little tweak along the way. And in the final 2 episodes, it's they all these other kind of things pick up and pay off a little bit. Well, not all, actually, not a lot of them on this one. But I told Mike before the show, like, I really enjoyed the cartoon Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, from the late in the 2010s era. And the last 2 episodes really, really made me miss that, because they felt like, team ups of characters with different powers and all the actions and like all the. I would have loved to see the storyboards for their choreographed action scenes in the last episode, Mike. I know you haven't watched it yet, but I'd like to get your take on the last episode, because it was really fun along the way. Did you happen to catch What If 1872 yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't caught that one. I tried to just pick and choose ones that were a little bit more connected to maybe the overall arc that they were kind of trying to do for the finale. And I thought maybe The Emergence might be that, but that one really didn't really have much payoff. At least I haven't watched the final episode yet.
Yeah, that one and 1872 have a little bit that do that. It was cool to see, again, you found it was Mysterio in that one. 1872 ties into a character we haven't even been introduced in the MCU yet, Mike, who will be in a show next year. So I'm excited that they were able to put those in there. So, What If Season 3 is done. The multiverse things, kind of, again, wrapping up Secret Wars. We won't be getting more of this, and that's fine. I think these were fun. I come to really enjoy the last few episodes, but, it's good to focus on other things as Marvel Television turns into, like you said, a proper television studio. And then at the end of it, they give us a new trailer for the next project on Disney Plus for Marvel, and that is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is dropping January 27th on Disney Plus. So we get our first trailer here with this. I love the cell shaded animation in this thing, Mike. It's different. It's, again, they're not relying on the single animation style. The characters feel like they're coming off a comic book page a little bit. The suit is really cool, and then at the end we get to see what looks like the anti-Venom suit from the Spider-Man game, a white and black. But I'm like I said, a low stakes show. I'm excited to watch it and kind of see what new Spider-Man visuals they bring to the table here.
Yeah, I'm curious, since this has been pivoted so much away from the MCU and Tom Holland, if there's going to be any connection in the future at some point. Do we see this Peter show up in a Spider-Verse movie in any way, even though that's very much Sony related?
They brought what's his name, the Prowler, Donald Glover from Marvel's Spider-Man. Homecoming.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, maybe we see this character pop up in Secret Wars. I'm just kind of curious, like, beyond how this was initially pivoted as being part of the MCU and now has moved away from it. Where is this supposed to kind of belong in my head? Is this just like a higher budget version of just the animated Spider-Man shows they make all the time anyway? There's a new Spider-Man show in perpetuity for all of existence, for like the younger generation all the time, because they're always churning through new kids, so they always get a new Spider-Man. I just don't know whether I just don't know whether I need to pay attention to this or not. That's the big question.
I think if you like it, you can pay attention to it, but I don't think this isn't required watching for MCU at any point, because it's a different universe with different, like, again, Norman Osborn, different suits, his origins different, the characters are different, kind of along the way. I think it's just Marvel can do animated Spider-Man, so it'll be in there.
Yeah, I mean, I love the visual style, very pop art. It looks great, so at least it's kind of carving out its own, visual language in a way.
Yeah. My fear has always been, like, again, not fear, but like, because they don't give us enough teasers on these until it's too late. Like, was everything going to look like What If? But obviously they're doing different styles here, and I'm excited to kind of see this come to life. But like I said, the cell shading on it's just really, really clicking for me along the way here, and seeing this the Spider-Man, he fighting, like, it's not pyro but someone with flamethrowers later on. I'd love to see his suit. So that's coming out in a couple weeks. I assume it'll probably be weekly. I don't think they'll drop them all at once. They haven't really said. So I'll keep you guys posted. Mike, I'm not here to review Kraven because I did watch Kraven last 2 weeks ago when it came out. But it's funny that Sony Pictures CEO Tony Vinciquerra, probably butchered his last name, admitted that Kraven is probably the worst launch we had in nearly the 8 years he's been at the studio. Yep, feels right. But he specifically blames the critics for the failures of Madam Web and Kraven, Mike.
Of course.
Here's the fun thing. He is stepping down from his role on January 2nd, not due to Kraven, it was before that. But he said he thinks that for some reason the press decided they didn't want us making these films out of Kraven and Madam Web, and the critics just destroyed them.
It's so funny. It's like you can desperately see that he's like looking for some sort of real excuse, like, oh, like if I would have made these movies maybe woke, at least I could like blame the woke mind virus for not liking these movies. But there's not even like anything fake that he can point to. He's living in a different reality where these movies were good and they're not. He looks like a fool either way, right?
Yeah.
He either looks like a horrible movie CEO because he has no taste in films, right?
Yeah, he greenlit thinking that that people would watch non-Spider-Man movies. Venom, I get. The first one it made a lot of money, but when executives take the wrong lessons from success, they're like, oh, we don't need Spider-Man. We'll do any character, and people will just flock to them. Not true. Madam Web's a bad movie. I've tried to be so nice to these movies. Kraven's better than Madam Web. I'll admit to that, but it's still, these things are just not like, they're over edited, or like they film something like we need to edit this down to something else, and you can feel all those cuts and tapes and blends and ADRs. But like, boy, this guy, like, for someone who's leaving, he just wants it to be anyone else's problem but his own, I guess, on the way out. So
yeah, I guess this is just him trying to leave with some bit of respect to the office he left behind.
I don't think he was even into movies before he took this role. I think he was like a financial guy or some other role along the way. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, 8 years of. So that's why I kind of included the Karate Kid Legends. I'm like, well, maybe they'll get some success off of that one along the way. But I would say the thing I felt the most from them is Sony has. It is 10 months past when Across the Spider-Verse, the third Spider-Verse movie, was supposed to come out, Mike. And they now, last week, only officially announced the directors for this movie that was supposed to come out 9-10 months ago. So drop the ball on one of your biggest money makers and most successfully, franchises by over-promising and under-delivering. But the new directors are Bob Persichetti and Justin K. Thompson. That team has both worked on the original and the second Spider. They weren't directors. I think they were like different roles, but they have worked on the first two Spider-Verse movies, so no qualms with the new directing team kind of going forward on this movie. So
yeah, and the directing role on these big animated Spider-Man movies are always a little bit different categorically than a feature film, because it's really the producers. Lord Miller, right? I didn't get that wrong.
Yeah,
right.
I think they might be EPs or something like. But yeah, like they answer to a higher power.
Yeah, exactly. But also, animation is always this gigantic collaborative effort. So as long as they're just keeping kind of like the DNA of people that have worked on the previous ones, I don't think the configuration of the hierarchy is that big of a deal. And I absolutely love every time this movie gets delayed, because every time it gets delayed, I just know it's going to be better and better and better. Yeah. So I live for these delayed headlines for this movie.
Yeah. I hope they get it on track and can give us like a solid date, because. Again, the first one's good, second one great. We're eating good in the Spider-Verse movies. So Sony, you want to keep doing those? Keep delivering them to us. Lastly, we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles news, Mike. We haven't had one of these sections in a long time.
Yeah, boy.
So the rumor is James Wan, director of the Aquaman movies, Conjuring, Saw franchise, is in talks to direct an R-rated movie based on the last Ronin graphic novel. And they have Tyler Burton Smith, who recently wrote Boy Kills World, is writing the script. I don't know if this is animated or live action, or like, maybe like Michael Bay verse, like where it's like live action and your animation and live action. I don't know anything like that, but the popularity of The Last Ronin over the last 5 years has just been wild to me. Like, this has really brought the Turtles back into the light, if you will. This and the animated movie. What is that? Mutant Mayhem. Turtles fans are eating good right now with this.
And I feel like James Wan is an okay choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do I want like a crazy visionary top tier director where you announce it and you go, why would they bother to make a Turtles movie? Yeah, because that would be crazy and cool and fun. But also, I don't want just like a no-name nobody who like just worked on bad stuff their whole career.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the original Aquaman. Aquaman 2, I think, never had a chance with the way that universe was being shaped up.
Yeah.
I think James Wan is a good director.
I don't blame him at all. He plays within the sandbox he's been given to deliver that.
Yeah. And he's obviously familiar with more mature content.
Mm-hmm.
So
and creatures.
I'm here for this.
He
Creatures.
did creature designs really well. You know, for Aquaman, even Aquaman 2. So, you know, having the turtles and stuff like that. Hopefully they can do the story justice. I would also love them to even, you know, I know they have to write a script. They can't just follow the graphic novel. They need to put some twist on it, right? Or not twist it, but like tweak it a little bit, like respect the original, but also enhance it, because we all know. You know, if you just go online, you may not know, Mike. If you go online, you know how that one ends and what it is and who it is. So I'm like, yeah, maybe if you update it a little bit for a movie, I would love to be surprised and stuff like that. So Turtles fans, Last Ronin, getting James Wan, huge success kind of along the way. So, all right, we sped through the back half of that show pretty good, Mike, after 30 minutes on the popcorn buckets. So we made it to the end. We made it through a power outage on my end even. So, you know, it may not be live, but we did capture all the audio for this, which is great. Mike, if people know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Oh, you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to find you out there on the net, where can they get you?
If I have internet, you can find me at Instagram at Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. If people know more about the show, where they can come back next year and we can, you know, kind of look forward to 2025 movies and release dates with everybody, where can they get all them goodies at?
Yeah, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find our upcoming release calendar, so you can see what's coming in the year 2025, 2026, and further on. We got a super useful release list there. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love listening to our podcast. And we got merch at superheroslate.com/store. We'd love hearing from you. Reach out. What was your favorite thing from this year? What is your most excited thing for next year? We want to hear from you. Let us know what you're hyped for. And as always, if you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here next year, folks.
That's right. We'll see you next year.
Bye.